meditation, the other is a superior type of meditation. The one which we have already been seeing together so far, that is a superior type of meditation actually. Because we are catching the highest directly. There is nothing else involved. He is going to say later on. It involves no particular code of conduct. It doesn't involve that, it doesn't say that you have to develop these qualities first, those qualities first. There is absolutely no prayer requirement. But the prayer requirements are essential in itself. Otherwise you cannot come to the state of understanding this at all. Yes, but they are implied. But then the process itself is quite simple. You did not take your walk and sit. You did not face the east. You did not face the west. So thus, it is a very simple process. That's what it means. It is a superior type of meditation. Because the superior type, we are thinking of him as the highest consciousness. We call it as Paramanirvana. What is Nirvana? The word Nirvana means extinction. Extinction means that which subsides, becomes nil. All the desires are reduced to nil. The entire world disappears. And in Buddhism that's called the Parinirvana. And that is what we call also as Kaivalya, the state of single blessedness, where you alone are, neither the world nor anything else. In the Jivanmukta state, even though we have the entire knowledge, so long as due to the prarabdha the body persists, it is not considered the Kaivalya stage, because due to the body, as far as the audience is concerned, as far as the seers are concerned, as far as the hearers are concerned, they will be seeing some distortion, they will be seeing some contradictions. The contradictions do not exist in what comes from there. The contradiction comes in your taking it, in your receiving it. And that defect in receiver happens because of the fact that these instructions come through a dense medium of a body. And that is why that is called the nirvana. That is the stage of nirvana. That is the stage of moksha. It is a full release as far as you are concerned. But I would say this perhaps a little of the health splitting which is involved here, where the final extinction of everything, because the Jivan Mukta still continues to see the world. Only thing is, he doesn't see the world as you and I see. You and I see the world with various ramifications behind it. When I see a boy, I consider him as my friend's son. Then I hug him. Or I find him as the son of my greatest enemy. I detest him. So many things are there in your eyesight. You are not seeing him as a mere boy. While the Jivanmukta doesn't see him as a boy at all. He sees him as a Brahman only. He sees him as his own self, as a projection of his own self. He sees the world. He sees him in both the forms. He sees him in his external self. But it has got no meaning for him. It has no significance for him. It doesn't affect him. It doesn't incite any memory in his mind as to who he is, whose son he is. Absolutely not. Ragadveshatakritam. There is no like and dislike involved. There is no hostility. There is no enmity. There is no friendship. There is no favoritism. Nothing is involved. He just sees. There is all like a log of wood. How does a log of wood look at you? Will tell you reaction. Similarly, a Jivan has absolutely no reaction, but he still sees the world. But then in the case of Parinirvana, whenever we have completely once for all merged with the Supreme Consciousness, at that level the Supreme Consciousness alone exists. The entire world was a mere mental exercise. It is only a dream sequence. Your dream sequence can never be seen outside. It happens inside. And as such, he alone exists. And even this dream sequence and all this, these are all our own concepts which we have prepared. for the understanding of a common man. Finally, what happens, you will know only when you reach him. Nobody has come back to tell us what happens. So, this is only a concept we have. And that is parinirvana. And that is what is called the Paramanirvana. Nirvana means moksha, mukti, liberation, salvation, release from all the boundaries of this life, of this phenomenal world. So, Parama means supreme, there is nothing beyond it, there is the ultimate, there is the last word, as far as the salvation is concerned. So, Paramanirvana. So, that is the real form of that Atma, the Brahman, because Atma is the same as the Brahman, the supreme consciousness. So, we meditate on him as that supreme consciousness, and we become that. Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. You see, that is the ultimate stage where you find, first you find that all this universe is interconnected. All is Atma. Everything is Atman. Sarvam Kalvinam Brahman. This is one of the Mahavakya. So everything is that, and then you find, if you tell somebody here at this end of the universe, it vibrates to the other end of the universe. Everything is interconnected. On this, an experiment was done by the quantum physicists. In 1972, when David Bohm, who was a BOHM, he was one of the quantum physicists very well known in England. He was a physicist. He conducted an experiment on what is known as the Bell theorem. The Bell theorem refers to an EPR effect based on Einstein's principle, which was wrong. So, he performed some experiment, but he could prove it in full. So it was taken up by two other people in California. And those two people conducted experiment. How? It's a beautiful experiment to show how everything is interconnected. The moment something happens, the same moment, however, I may be millions of miles away from him, I should be able to know what happens to somebody else here. That's what happened. They released the two pairs of photons. Photons are the small subatomic particles. There is a radiation of the electrons when it comes out, that ray, we call it as a photon. So, from a neon light, through a certain process, they release pairs of photons. One pair, two. And they were polarized. What is polarization? Polarization means, you know, if you take a magnet, there is a north pole and a south pole. So, if things which have got the north pole negative magnetism, they will all go to a different side, and the positives go to another side. So thus they will separate, they won't be together. That is, I am only talking in layman's language. So that's called the polarization. So they were all in a state of polarization. They released it. When they released those photons, the pair, they being polarized, one went to the north, the other went to the south. They went in absolutely opposite directions. After some, they made it turn to the right. The moment they turn to the right, the other photon which has gone millions of miles away, astronomical distance as they call it, it has already gone to an astronomical distance. At that time when it knows that this has been deflected to the right, immediately it deflects to the left on the opposite side. The reaction takes place. 1,000 times they did it in different directions, it immediately gave a reaction to the opposite side. Simultaneously, there was not a second interval between them. And any communication between these two, obviously, this photon has communicated to the other one, look here, I have been deflected, I am now going to the right. Any communication goes through signals. There is no other way according to the physics. And no signal can go beyond the speed of light. And it was taken hours for this signal to reach down the speed of light. And it has been deflected at almost instantaneously. At the same time by itself, suddenly it turned to the left. 1,000 times they did, 1,000 times it turned left. And this was a puzzle. Many of the scientists refused to accept this experiment. And this experiment was again conducted by another gentleman whose name I have forgotten. After some years, he proved the same thing. And all these people, they have said, see, Bone has said at one place, he calls it an implicit order. All the world things, all the objects, they are all under a law, which may be called an implicit order. He says, he proposed the theory of implicit order, in which all things and events are enfolded in a total wholeness and unity. The way in which this implicit order works is called hollow movement. It is an unbroken and undivided totality. Nothing moves alone. Everything is in consonance. If I beat one gentleman, its effect will be felt all over. Yes, it is not so gross as you and I may feel it, but it does. It goes up to the end of the universe. This is what they have proved. These are all experiments conducted. These are not theories. These are not concepts. And Heisenberg, another Nobel Prize scientist, who proposed the theory of uncertainty in 1926, as early as 1926, who begged to differ with Einstein, and has proved that Einstein is wrong. Now these things are proved. The theory of relativity is wrong. In this sense, there are particles which can go several times more than the speed of light. So where does it fit in? So the Einstein theory has already been overthrown in some way. Well, there are other things. For instance, the relativeness of time and all that, they are okay. But some of his main theories have been overthrown already. There is that. This Heisenberg. He came to India when he was working on the quantum theory. And he stayed with Rabindranath Tagore in Shantiniketan. And they had a lot of discussions. And he has recorded that whatever baffled him in the quantum theory, he found so many things, so many contradictions, so many things which the scientists have never heard of or thought of. Those were the results. For instance, like this, that no object in the world is alone and isolated. All the objects are connected by one Atma. Now, all these things, they baffled them. How could it be? How could it be? I am different, you are different. I am in a different house, you are in a different house. How could it be that we both could be governed by the same law of action? How could it be? How is it possible? And then he said, when I talked with Rabindranath Tagore, I found crazier ideas than this, and including this, have already been discussed in their Vedanta. This is what he laughed. I thought that I was going crazy, but now I got strength. Oh, crazier ideas have been propounded by the rishis and accepted. This is what happened. So, Athava Bahushani Tasmad Atma Sada Vidyaha. Tasmad, therefore means wherefore. Because of the fact stated in the previous one, that a man who knows the Atman, he only will be able to get rid of this birth and death cycle. He will be immortal. Because of that. Atma Sada Vidya. The purpose of the entire life should be to know your own self. Atma, don't think that Atma is something else. Atma is a term for you. It is an equivalent, it is a synonym for the word I. Instead of saying I, they use the word Atma. Atma means the self, that is the I, the real I. So, Tasmad Atma Sada Vidya. It is impossible for everybody to know as to who he is, who I am, who am I. That should be the first and foremost duty of everybody who is born as a human on this earth. Tasma, therefore, Atma sada vidya. Sada, always, there can be no exception. Without exception at all times, vidya. He should be known. He should be understood. You should be able to realize him. Vedya means you cannot understand him like some physics or chemistry, getting by heart some formulae. This is something to be experienced. It is an experiential knowledge. You have to get through into your experience. It is an experience which is beyond your senses. We call it atindriya. Atindriya anubhava. Normally, whatever of the objects of the world, you cognize them through one of your senses. But this is something which eludes all your senses. So none of your senses, none of your intellect, none of them will do. Only through meditation, you will have to merge yourself in the universal, and then only you can understand it. And the Upanishad always says, Atma va are shrotavyaha, drashtavyaha, nididhyasatavyascha. One should hear about it from the proper source, from the Guru, from the preceptor, from the scriptures, where the great Maharshis have recorded all their experience with the superconsciousness. So we have to follow them. And we have to understand it in that way. Suvicharya. We have to inquire into it properly. This Huama is not a mere mantra. You will have to go deep. You will have to analyze and find out who can be the I. Can it be my body? Can it be my mind? Can it be my vital breath? So you have to find it out. Suvicharya. Vicharya means inquiry. Suvicharya means inquiring fully, comprehensively in all its aspects. Suvicharya. And who is capable of doing it? Vichakshana. Only those who have risen to this level. That is why I said these are all meant for Uttamadhikaris, not for the one at the lowest level. For the mediocre as well as for the middle. We may call it as Vichakshana. Vichakshana means the wise man. Why is it called Vichakshana? Chakshu means the eye. Vishesha Chakshu yasya saha Vichakshana. The one who is able to see, not with his gross eye, but Jnana Chakshu, with a separate perception, with a deep perception. It is made up of an eye of knowledge, an eye of deep perception. And such wise men, their duty will be to understand. Others won't be able to understand. So you have to reach a particular stage of discriminative intellect. That faculty has to be developed, where you should know that what is the world about and what is this? Is this world permanent? Is it not changing? Then what is it that is changeless? In all these things are changing. So, only when you have got that discriminative faculty, that deep perspective, that perspicacity, that is the sharpness of the brain, then only he will be able to understand by a proper inquiry. Then, how can he do it? What are the methods? He said there are two methods. One is based on the nature of the Atman as the meditator conceives. Not according to that. According to that, the nature is only one. But for us, the first one is para apara vibhagena. The para means the one who is transcendental. So you conceive of him as the one who is transcendental, who is beyond the words, who is beyond the mind, and that is the superior. Para here means the superior type of meditation. The superior type of meditation where we go to the supreme consciousness, that is the superior most meditation which we can ever have. And that is why it is called the para. Para in both sense. The one on whom you are going to meditate is the para. He is the transcendental consciousness, the ultimate absolute, the reality, the ultimate reality. So you catch it directly, as they have said, the Soha method, or various other methods you have already seen in Devi Kalokara. They are all such methods. Various other methods like that. Then the other one will be Apara Vibhaga, the inferior one. These are going to be explained in the next show. I would rather like to explain it in the next one. So there are two methods. You conceive of him as a transcendental, or you conceive of him as along with the Prakriti. So that is called Apara. Apara means the inferior type. We will explain it in the next one. So the two types based on the type of the Atman as we conceive, according to our concepts of the Atman, concepts of the Brahman. The other one is Sthula Sukshma Vibhagata. This division is based on the method. The first division is based on the Atman's nature. This method is based on the type you are going to use. The one type which is very common, because this Jnana Kalotara, the last chapter of this is Mantra Vibhaga. So he is going to talk about the various mantras. So there are people who are giving emphasis on mantras. All tantras, they are based on graphics, what is called yantra plus mantra. Or at least mantras will always be there. Because tantras believe in controlling all the forces through the various graphics, through the various bijaksharas or the sacred syllables called the mantras for purpose of incantation. That we will explain it later. So, there are other two types of meditation. By a gross method, and another is by a subtle method. This belongs to the modus operandi, the method by which you are going to do. The first one is dependent on the nature of the Atman as we conceive of. The one is there, one is Nirguna, the other is Saguna. We are going to think of it along with the entire Prakriti. And that is the very type of two types of meditation which are described by Shankara in the Dakshinamurti Ashtaka, which I had already done a few months back. In the Dakshinamurti Ashtaka, the first 6 or 7 are all about Sarvatma Bhava, where everything is Atman, everything is Supreme Consciousness. But then in his compassion, he left one shloka for the Madhyamadhikari. For the mediocre people who cannot conceive of that high type of consciousness, for him there is one shloka. Gurambam sagalo nirumbara maharnatho kimam chippumani ityabhati characharatmake vidam yasaiva murtyashtakam. That is the 8 different murtis of the Lord. That is including this entire nature. We bring the world into account. So the Lord as the cosmic being, taking into account the cosmos, we are coming one step less in order to suit those people who are not fit for the higher type of meditation. The same thing over here. Now, Sthula Sukshma Vibhaga Shaha. So the second type of meditation is based on the method. The method adopted. There is the modus operandi. When the first one is dependent on the nature of the Brahman as conceived by the meditator. Now we come to the next, which explains this para and apara as well as the sthula and sukshma. What is gross, what is subtle, what is the transcendental, what is the inferior, what is the superior. Parama nirvana, parama nirvana, svapara srishti bhedataha, sthulo mantramaya prokto, sukshmo dhyanika samsthitaha. This is purely a definition of the 4 divisions which is given there. There he mentioned only the names of the divisions. Now here is a definition as to what he means. What is the para? What is the first type of meditation which you call the superior type? That is Paramanirvana. I have already explained to you. Paramanirvana is a state where the world also disappears, where he utterly merges 100% with the Supreme Consciousness. And that is the stage of Paramanirvana. And normally it happens, we call it as Videha Mukti. Only when the body goes, one gets that Videha Mukti, known as the Kaivalya. That is where that Brahman alone is there, nothing else is there. Paramanirvana. Paramana is based on the creation. There was no creation in the first one. It was a Paramanirvana. Creation is a delusion. But then, creation is a fact for you and I. We are seeing it. How can we ignore it? So for such mediocre people who are unable to ignore the world, take that also into account as part of your meditation, and then you meditate on the 8 forms of Prakriti which the Lord has assumed. What are the 8 forms he has assumed? He has assumed, firstly, this Panchabhutas, the 5 basic elements which are the basic fundamental building blocks for the entire world of objects. That is Prithvi, Up, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. That is earth, water, fire, air, space. So these 5, they are all created by Prakriti, which is very much the power of the Lord, the power of the Supreme Being. So you consider them as the manifestation of that one Supreme Force. There is nothing but the one Supreme Force. So whatever manifestation there, it has to be of that Supreme Force. So we are now concerned with the meditation on the manifested being. The original one was the unmanifested Supreme One. And here is a manifested one. He has manifested these 5 bhutas. Apart from that, he has manifested the sun, the effulgent, the resplendent sun, the moon, Himanshu, and 5 plus 2 is 7. The 8 is he himself has come as the Jiva, as the Jivatma. He has reflected on the Buddhi which is inside, and that is playing the part of an Atma. So that is also the power of the Supreme Being. It is he who has come as this Jiva. Only thing is that Jiva is not aware. It is the supreme electricity which is everywhere in the entire Tamil Nadu, which has come in the 0 watt, which has come in the 200 watt, which has come in the 1000 watt. It is the manifestation of the supreme electricity. That supreme electricity, who has seen? Has anybody seen the electricity? Is it black or white? Is it tall or dwarfish? Nobody has seen it. It is the unmanifest. While its manifestation is in all the buds. So that is why we are considering Atma as the 8th creation of the Lord. So we are taking on the various divisions of the Srishtis. So the basic Srishtis were this. And then based on it, the Creator took these raw materials which the Lord has created, and then He began to manufacture all men, animals, etc. These were the basic building blocks which the Supreme Being has created. Srishti Bhedataha. So the inferior one is based on the divisions of the Srishti, the 8 forms of the Lord out of nature. That is the 5 elements, the sun, the moon, and the Jivatma, or this individual soul, a soul which imagines that I am Ram, I am Krishna, I am David, I am Johnson. That soul, that is called the Jivatma. The Jivatma which has identified itself with the body-mind complex. Srishti Bhedata. Now we come to the 2 other divisions of meditation based on the gross and the subtle. Sthulaha mantramaya prukta. How to interpret it? Any interpretation, how it should be done. For that, standards have been set up by the savants of literature and the philosophy. In the philosophy we have got, there are 6 signs, symbols, which you should apply to find out whether that is the meaning which is meant here. And after that, one of the symbol is find out whether in the beginning or earlier he has mentioned about this. If so, it is likely he is mentioning about the same. And see whether at the end of it he is mentioning about it. Now, in page 11 of the book, shloka number 9, if you see, He says, Ahameva paro devaha sarva mantramaya shivaha. I am on the form of all the various sacred syllables in the world, all the mantras which people recite, whether it is Panchadashi, whether it is Sri Vidya Mantra, whether it is the Panchashari of Lord, whether it is the Dvadashashari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, all the mantras, they are all of the Supreme Consciousness. All the mantras are sound effects, and all the sound effects, they are not inert. This book is inert, but I am conscious. So the mantras are all conscious. They are full of life because they represent the entire consciousness. That is why when you tell the mantras, then the consciousness develops and your consciousness is raised. That is the secret of it. So here he has said about mantramaya. What about the end? Upakrama, upasamhara. The beginning and the end. The entire Jnanotsaram ends with that chapter on mantra only. That is called the mantra vibhaga. As big as this portion is that mantra vibhaga, which is all in very code words. You can't really understand. They don't mention the various mantras. They're all written in codes. It is a 16-letter mantra. It is like this, it is like this, based on what is called some katapaya, the sankhya. It's a little difficult for a normal man to understand that. But there is a mantra vibhaga. So, here when he says, Kulaha mantramaya prutaha, the lower adhikari, the man who is not fit for the higher type of meditations, he can also follow this method, take a mantra from some guru, go on repeating it, thinking of the Supreme Consciousness. Because no mantra can be repeated like an automaton. That japaha, tadartha bhavana. The Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, what is meant by japa? Japa doesn't mean an automatic, a mechanical repetition of those syllables. No, you should understand its meaning. What do you mean by meaning? Meaning doesn't mean there are so many words come, shroud, shram, they have got no meaning as such. They're all sound effects. Then what do they mean? The entire meaning of every mantra is the Supreme Consciousness. So whenever you tell, you always remember and think of the Supreme Being, the Supreme Being. So any mantra, say, Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Think, you just think it is the Supreme Being I am thinking of. Because Ramana is not different from the Supreme Being. That is how the mantra should be recited. So here he says, Thulaha mantramaya prukta. The most gross form of meditation is starting with the mantra. Yes, this japa also as a lower type of meditation has been mentioned in Upadesha by Bhagavan himself. That is there. He has considered, yes, all people may not be capable of doing the other one. That is meant for only pakwi, the mature people. So the others have to start with japa. Then still lower is puja. Japa is supposed to be superior to the puja. So japa is a type of meditation. Puja, you cannot bring it under the meditation fully. So Sthulaha mantramaya prokta. Prokta means it is being told. It is being told that the gross form of meditation is mantramaya. Only full of mantras, you choose the mantra or your guru chooses for you whatever mantra which is suitable for your spiritual constitution which you have inherited from past birth. Based on it, he may select a mantra and give you, and that is the mantramaya, Sthula. Then what is Sukshma? Sukshma again, Dhyanika samsthitaha. Remain only in continuous flow of thought on that Supreme Being. Your mind should never waver. So unwaveringly on the Supreme Consciousness Dhyana. What is the difference between the first one called Paramanirvana, where also you are thinking of the Supreme Consciousness, and here again, Dhyanika Samsthitaha, you are going to continuous meditation or contemplation of that alone. What is the difference? The difference is, the other one is, directly you are catching the consciousness, you are saying that I am that consciousness, You are thinking of yourself as that consciousness, remain as the consciousness. Why, in this case, it is called the Akhandakara Vritti. Where your thought is being used, there it is not a thought. You remain as Shiva. You remain as the consciousness. Here is a case where you think of that consciousness, you think whatever is known to you in that manner, so that there will be a thought. The thought will be continuous, but the thought will not be diverted anywhere else. It will be only on one channel. So dhyana means Tailadharavati. When you pour the ghee, Bhagavan has given the pouring of the ghee, ajam. When you pour the ghee over the fire, it's a continuous flow. At no time there is any interval in between. Or we call it Tailadharavati in other texts. That is like the flow of oil. When you pour the oil, it's a continuous flow. It's a thick, dense flow. In the same way, a thick, dense, concentrated contemplation of that one center, if necessary along this very brief circumference, you can do that. And that type, that is called the Sukshma Jnana, Sukshma. So the Sukshma is almost like the Para. But still, as I said, the one is based on the nature where you directly catch him. You become that. I am that. So I am that is an experience. I am that, as I said, you start with the imagining. It's an imagination. You imagine I am that and you sit. The other one is, it's a contemplation. It is a meditation. It's a thought. Finally, this thought, it breaks asunder, tears asunder that veil which covers the Atma. It tears asunder that veil of ignorance. And in that process of blowing up the ignorance, it blows itself. It becomes a suicide square. With the result, the thought disappears. And what remains? Which always remains. That is the Brahman. So that is one of the methods prescribed in our scriptures, that Akhandakara Vritti, which exhausts itself whenever it removes the ignorance. It cannot create jnana. Jnana can never be created because it always exists. We are jnana only. We are all jnana muktis. So it cannot be created. Only thing is we are not aware of it. There is some veil around us. So this only serves the purpose of tearing asunder the veil. Then after tearing it asunder, if this vritti also simultaneously lives with that superconsciousness, then it will become duality. Then there are two realities. One is your thought, and another is the supreme consciousness. No, it can't be. That is why it commits harikari, or what they call in Japanese, is suicide. That's all. Sthulaha mantramaya krupta sushmaha dhyanika samsthita. The next is Athava bahushanena kimuktena shadhanana vagvikalpa visheshena manattam mogakarina. All right, I have talked a lot. How much will I talk about it? I have talked sufficiently. I have repeated myself several times. So, O Shadhanana, O Guha, O Subramanya, the six-faced one, he addresses him. Shadhanana is the name of his son, to whom he is imparting all these instructions. That is Guha, Sharvana Bhava. That is Subramanya. So he is also called Shadhanana. Shadhanana, Anana means face, the sixth face. You know why he calls him the sixth face? Why can't he call him as Guha? Lord Paramacharya was always jealous of his son because Paramacharya had only 5 heads. My son is one up. He is having 6. So that is why he says, look here, you have got 6 mouths so you can talk a little extra. I got only 5, only this much I can. That's what he says. Athava bahushanena kim uktena. Uktena, whatever I have told, bahusha in various ways, in various methods, I have repeated myself. Anena kim uktena, what is the use of still further telling? So I have already told you whatever is to be told. So I have told in various ways, bahusha, in various ways. Anena kim uktena, what is the use of telling further? O Shadhanana. become Vagvikalpa Visheshana, because if I talk more, it will be only the excellence of expression, that's all. I'll be putting it in different words, different vocabulary, and I use some difficult words which you will have to refer to the dictionary. So that is called the Vad Vikalpa Visheshana. Vad Vikalpa means the varieties of expression. Vikalpa means varieties. So Vad Vikalpa means the various varieties of expressions. Vishesha means special style, that is with special style and all that. What is the use of all those things? If I do like that, supposing I talk more, you know what will happen? Manas sammohakarina. Your mind will reel, it will become dizzy, and you will get deluded more. Then you will have more doubts than ever, and you will never be able to understand. It will confuse you. Manas sammohakarina. If I talk more, it will only result in deluding your mind or in confusing your mind. Sammoha can be considered as confusion or delusion. It will only result in confusion, so I have told you whatever is to be told. So with this we stop today.